Okay, today I want to talk a bit about aligning the type of land you're targeting with your dispo strategy, both your timeline and how you're looking to sell your properties. And this came to mind recently because when I first started in the business, I remember wanting to sell more on terms, and I had a hard time. I didn't have a hard time selling, but nobody wanted owner financing, really. There were some people, but the vast majority of people wanted to buy for cash. And that's because I didn't properly consider who's buying this and what are they going to use it for. So let's dive into this. This is where I started in Pueblo, West Colorado, here in Colorado City, which is a little further south. And up here in Pueblo West, especially at the time, it was pretty busy. Lots of people were building. And so when I would sell one of these infill lots, the builders or the mom and pop buyer or investor was going to build very soon. And so even if they did want seller financing, many times they'd pay it off very quickly. And I wouldn't actually get to benefit from having carried the note and accruing a lot of interest because they would pay it off within, 12 months or a year and a half. And so I sold pretty much all these for cash, which nothing wrong with that. No, not me complaining, but I didn't consider who the buyer was. So let me show you a different example. Let's say I was new and just starting. Well, I wouldn't target land like these properties because these are big industrial properties and they illustrate kind of the overarching point that I want to make about larger, more complex projects. If you're new, if you need to make money quickly, unless you have contacts already who you know are ready to buy, I would avoid properties like this. There's a lot of work that's going to have to be done, probably environmental studies, meetings with the city or county, and you're not going to find very likely a buyer who's going to close on this quickly, especially if you want to do just an assignment or a double close. It's not impossible. It's not impossible, but it's difficult because properties like this tend to take a long time to do your due diligence on. And unless you get it at just a ridiculous price and then offer it to an end user at what is still a very low price, you're probably not going to move large acreage that's going to be used for a more complex project quickly. The same to be said if you were to pick a giant residential piece that D.R. Horton is going to do a whole community on, you're going to have the same problem. It's going to be a very long closing time frame, even if you get a great deal. Whereas, going back to this, these properties are much easier to sell quickly. The infill lots are much easier to sell quickly and to sell for cash. Now, let me show another example. Again, something like this you might be able to own or finance, but these are not cheap and it's not simple, so probably not great if you're new. However, if you're experienced, you have lots of holding power, and you do have the cash available, going after properties like this could be an excellent strategy. Now, on the flip side of all this, we talked about cash transactions. If you want to sell on terms, well, where do you find the opportunity to do that? And this isn't straightforward necessarily on Zillow or Redfin or Realtor.com, but generally, tracts of land in more rural areas tend to be easier to sell on terms. There tends to be people that want to buy these for the future. And again, on the opposite side of this, if you need to sell quickly for cash, these parcels are much harder to do that with. So here's a little project I'm doing about 40 miles east of the Front Range in Colorado. And I am anticipating selling probably all of these on owner financing. Okay. Now, if you watched my deal dissection video, you can sell notes, right, and get a good portion of your cash back, but that is just another layer of complexity. And so, again, if you're new, you need to move properties quickly and move them for cash. I would probably avoid a lot of these rural parcels where you don't have a lot of cash buyers. I see this really just anywhere rural. There's a tight correlation between tracks like this, eastern Colorado, out in the desert in Arizona, a lot of the Midwest hunting properties, camping properties, any sort of recreational property. You're going to have fewer cash buyers and more people looking for terms. And so you need to consider this ahead of time I didn't, and that made it difficult to accomplish what I had at the time set out to accomplish, which was more note payments every month. So think that through, and it's an overarching concept. I've talked about this quite a bit with the front end, right? And knowing who you're marketing to, who owns the properties, and aligning your marketing accordingly. This is the same sort of thing where you want to take your goal, right? I need to make money quickly, or hey, I'm looking for a great return, but I have the ability to wait. Well, different types of properties that you might want to target given which scenario you are in. So, quick and simple, but I don't think it's often discussed. So, I hope that gets you thinking.